Attention, citizens. It's time for Super Pulp Science.
This is Super Pulp Science, where we talk about how genre gets made. I am GMB Kamichek. I'm here with my long-suffering co-host, Justin Curry, known the world over as Chasing Artwork. Our producer today is none other than writer and letterer Lyndon Radchenka. He may or may not give us clear direction on how to do better. That's really up to him now.
Wah, wah, wah.
I'm fresh from the wilds of Brandon, Manitoba's Paris. No, that's which one is the Paris of the Saskatoon is the Paris of the prairies. Sorry, Brandon. That makes you the. What does that make Brandon?
Bratislava. Copenhagen.
Oh my God. Okay, so the Siberia of the prairies. But we were there, and by we I mean me. I was there for the WestManGaming Expo and had just the greatest weekend and probably the biggest booth setup I've ever had.
I was gonna say, yeah, you sent us pictures of the booth, and it's what, like 4 times the amount of space you usually get at a show?
It was downright palatial. Yeah, it was. A good function of the show organizers there was that they had some space and they weren't.
It's a Keystone Center, so it's a ton of room.
Yeah,
they'd be hard pressed to fill it.
Yeah, and they didn't. They just had a section of it,
right?
Also, yeah. And the one of the main components of the WestManGaming Expo was this giant Warhammer tournament that was going on there also, and so they had more space than they needed as a result of that, as far as what they had booked for vendors and what they had booked for gaming.
Because a typical Warhammer game needs at least one 8-foot table, if not more.
And so since I had booked sort of a 3-spot setup anyway, and then I'd asked if there was a way if I could have a playtest area for some Danger in the Details things. They went above and beyond. And
so you had your your table, your stands, and then out in front of it was another smaller table for people to sit at and try your game out.
Yeah. And their rationale was, since other shows, dear listener, if you go and do public events, they call this sort of thing, there's a name for it if you're trying to ask for it. It's called an activation. Right? An activation is something that your booth brings that is going to activate the crowd in some way. That's why it has that name. And make people interested to stay at the venue.
Yeah, something free, something entertaining, something anybody can come up, try, participate in.
Yeah, exactly right. Yeah, and you're doing it all, and the venue doesn't have to.
Yes.
And so what they can offer you,
added value.
What they can offer you is some extra space, and so that seemed to be the quid pro quo. Clarice, don't say it, Lyndon. I see it crossing your face.
I think, I don't know if it was the case this year, but last year we were able to get more space than original because we showed up early. We were there during the initial setup, and so they were kind of arranging tables for the first time. They were figuring everything out, and so we were able to kind of sneak and go, can we have just maybe one more table each and a couple more chairs each, and can we carve off this little section of the floor a bit more? And just being there super early and almost helping out with the setup kind of gave us opened the door for us to have a much bigger space.
And if I could say, the important characterization of a move like that is you make no demands.
No.
Right? You're not making any demands. You're happy with whatever they give you, but if they're happy to give you something else, then you have to give a little extra on your own.
The opposite of that is showing up 10 minutes before the show starts and demanding your neighbors give you more room or more space. That's
the worst.
You do not want to be that person. They're going to want to have you back next year.
So and I also drove out early on the Friday, so I was there early.
Which is great when you can do that.
Early during setup, and I had brought a number of free giveaways and these Prince and the Dragon activity booklets that people could just they could sit at the table and color in them or do whatever. And so it really was kind of a fun way to build a booth area that people could linger in and hang out and sit and just the way that I was able to design it, it had an inset. So there was sort of a peninsula that thrust out into where the crowd was, and then a place where if you wanted to sit at the table, you could move out of the general public space, and kind of you and your buddies could just like
Did
hang
you
out for a minute.
ever have any problems where your table, instead of being used for its intended use of people playing the games, was used as just a pit stop? Like, I want to rest and set all my stuff down here and drink my lemonade.
Yeah. So how I avoided
Your
malignant.
$9 lemonade.
Yeah. No, it was branded, so everything was reasonably priced. The way I defended against malingerers is that I just made sure that the table itself was stocked with the items that you're supposed to be doing there.
Right.
So there's no place to unfurl your other belongings without obviously taking up space that's not yours.
It's always kind of irks me a little bit when we're at a convention and there'll be an empty table in the row, and that table becomes the let's unload all our convention stuff for attendees, and this is our pit stop, this is our gas station, we're going to like make a mess of this table, we'll probably leave some garbage there when we leave.
Yeah. One exception to that rule is I saw a family, they had 4 daughters, and it was 2 parents, and they were clearly looking for a place where they could just hunker down and like have a meal that they had brought or whatever. And so I spotted them coming a mile away, and I was just, there's that long stare that a parent has that is like, we just have to rest. We've been trying so hard to keep everyone together, and so I invited them to come and sit and have their meal there, and then took all the other accoutrements off the table and let them just have a picnic at the booth, basically.
Well, do you think that's because the way that shows are organized, they don't want people to sit down and stop?
I think it's crazy if that's true.
A lot of
because-
shows do.
It
They have
feels
that
that way.
designated area where it's usually food.
Yeah.
Like the food court area.
Sure. I mean, some of the shows do. Like, you're thinking of like Toronto. Has
Yeah,
that
the
area.
bigger shows usually have like an entire food area where it's just tables and vendors for food.
Sure.
vendors.
I guess Calgary has
Yeah,
the downstairs
Yeah.
area. If you can find a spot, it just seems like so much of the shows we go to, there is always people sitting on the floor in the hallways.
against the walls,
Against
and
the-
they crack
any-
down on that
Yeah.
too, right? Like they don't want people doing that because it can become a danger when that show floor is so busy.
Right.
You can't have people sitting.
But there's such limited seating, even in the designated seating areas, that they don't, like, you can't sit down anywhere. They don't want you to sit down
Right.
anywhere.
And remember, harken back to a different era when you could go outside and areas outside were set up so that you could sit outside and just relax. Those areas are all gone from public spaces now.
Right.
And so there's literally nowhere to just take a load off.
Yeah.
Right. That doesn't have some anti-personnel spike now attached to it. It's so wild. So yeah, it wasn't like that though. It was a very let's say, it was not a roaring attendance show, but nor did I expect it to be.
But the thing with this show is super long hours, right?
Yeah.
So had it been a normal convention with normal hours, would it have seemed a lot busier? But because it was longer hours and more spread out,
Yeah, I mean, if you put it that way, totally true. But because we had done it last year and we'd had the long hours, that's where I got the idea that I could have so I did from 10 till 6 regular booth fiduciary responsibilities met. I'm there
Yeah.
to sell stuff, I'm there to promote stuff, I'm going to sign stuff, I'm going to but from 6 to 8, the show ran till 8 o'clock, I did play testing. So the table was open and I would run scenarios at the table. So I was basically not at work anymore. I was just there to have a good time, roll some dice, and make up stories with strangers. And it was so amazing. It just felt like the craziest, most fun day of work, because it's like normally also post-show you have that little dip where you're like, if I start to rest now, I'll never
I'm never getting up again.
I'm never getting up again, right? And so because my commute to the gaming table was one step, I felt totally like emboldened to just like roll into it. And because I'd built it up in my mind, like, at 6 o'clock, I don't have to work anymore. All these other suckers have to work, but I'm basically closing up to just have my own fun.
you have that crash, but then you start to kind of put that carrot in front of your face of there's only 2 more hours left. There's only 1 more hour left. There's only half an hour left.
Yeah, I try not to be a clock watcher, but
It's like some shows, it's mentally, physically exhausting, and that's that light at the end of the tunnel.
Look, I don't spend a lot of time in boardrooms. Why don't we all adjourn this meeting to a place we're a little more familiar with?
I was running a scenario using the danger in the details rules. I was running a scenario that was based on Princess and the Dragon, the movie scenario that we've been doing. So
Yeah.
that setting, and the people who were playing, one distinction there was the director of the film got to play in his own movie, essentially, right? But a few other folks were there, and suddenly it was 10:30. Like, it was just us and the security and the people who ran the booth. And I was like, oh, sorry we went so long. Like, we totally lost track of time. We were just laughing and having a good time. And they said, we would never get in the way of someone rolling dice at a gaming convention. Are you kidding? Like, we're here till 11 or whatever to close up. So we just didn't, which is also different than a lot of shows where security immediately starts to usher you towards the door the instant the clock strikes.
It has nothing to
8.
do with the convention. It's usually
Right.
the like the arena or the location security. Yeah.
So
We've run into that.
yeah, Brandon is big enough. It's 50,000 people in Brandon. You know, it's big enough to be
70.
Cities. Is it 70?
I think it's
People I talked to there said it's 50, and that it serves the surrounding area of like 200,000 people.
okay. Yeah.
Right. So
Big rural community.
yeah, it's a very large rural community, but in that same way that a rural community sometimes makes up rules on a case-by-case basis, that was clearly the vibe there. Like, we have rented this space, and we have hired security to be there, and you're not causing a disruption.
Yeah.
So what is the point of causing you to leave? You know, like, that doesn't make sense to us, which was a very different vibe than
It also
other
really it warms my heart. Just like I grew up on a farm about 2 hours from Winnipeg, an hour and a half from Brandon, and Brandon was like a big city, and Winnipeg was an even bigger, more overwhelming city. So being able to go to Brandon and set up a booth that has kind of been tested out at New York and San Diego and like all these conventions, being able to go to like what would be a childhood was a big hurdle growing up.
Speaking to that exact feeling, on the way out, of course, I go past through St. James, which is where I taught for 10 years. And so on the way home, just the way the lights worked Sunday night is I find myself at the red light. The high school I worked at all those years ago, I can see the window for the office that I had when I called my very first book rep, Donovan, to do the Imagination Manifesto all those years ago.
Wasn't your office like an attic, basically?
Yeah, they gave all the new teachers the same attic space and said, just share this and get along.
Yeah, like, and it was, when I say an attic, it looked like an attic.
It was pretty awesome. If I'm being honest, I liked it a lot.
Okay.
But I could see kind of my old self from where I was. And I just had this moment where I thought, like, I could see my past, but my past couldn't see this future from there. Like, there was no correlation. So I had also a moment like that where it's like, my life is different now, and this is where we're at.
Put yourself back in those old shoes again. And yeah.
I wonder what would happen if I did this. You know, those thoughts kind of become something, and now I've done it, and so I'm looking back at that person and going like, I guess it worked out.
Yeah.
Right? Kind of worked out. Good job. Good job.
It all turned out okay.
Yeah.
All you had to do was convince Friesens to print comic yearbooks.
That's right. Yeah. For those who don't know the story, very briefly, how I got started making graphic novels is I wanted a hardcover kind of European style graphic novel. And the yearbooks had been delivered at the school that I was teaching at. And I thought, this is the perfect format. So I called up the printer of that yearbook, which turned out to be Friesens, a world-class printer here in Altona. And the rest, as they say, is history. Although there was a brief moment where I sent the files and they said, wait, there's like an occult adventure story in here. This is not a yearbook. So that's how I met Donovan. He said, you need a book rep. Right. So here we go. Yeah. So the show was good. And I have also to report that there was a moment where I thought, this is my job.
Mm-hmm.
And I was, selling these pictures of monsters to a group of people. And maybe 20 meters away, knights in full plate armor behind a safety screen were hitting each other with broadswords as hard as they could. The crowd was cheering for them. Behind them, a bunch of like MMA fighters were warming up because there was going to be like a judo demonstration.
Really?
next.
Now they
And then over there is, these hundreds of people playing a Warhammer tournament to see if they can rank in the Canadian. There's like a Canadian
Oh, it's like a league.
tier. It's a league, yeah.
Yeah.
And so two of the players were going to end up in the
Wow.
next tier of the league. So it was like high stakes Warhammer going on.
I didn't realize it was that official.
Yeah, and some of those sessions I think were 9 hours long. Like it was bananas. And I was just like, this is a very weird job that I have right now. Yeah. Can I draw a vampire on the back of that piece of paper?
Again, I keep liking to drop this and point this out, that like when we were in high school or even like college and university, like this did not exist as a job as it does now. Like what we're doing for a living was not an option.
Right. Not an option at all. And at the time, and this speaks now to the current state of the comics world, for those of you who don't know, one of the major comics distributors, the comics distributor in North America, just filed for bankruptcy. And so the state of the union is quite
Things are great.
strained. But I will say this, they were also strained in the 90s when I was interested. This is when the big implosion was happening then too. And I think my lack of interest in the mainstream comic scene has really saved my,
If you put all your eggs in that basket.
yeah,
Yeah.
I would be doomed. And if I had believed I could, or that was the only way, it also would have severely limited me, because I would have been at the behest of someone else's platform yet again.
I know it's not all the cases, but it seems like a vast majority of the people who are in that scene are overworked and underpaid, and I'm not jealous of too many of them.
Right. Yeah. And there are some notable exceptions.
If we're going to be overworked and underpaid, I'd rather it be our stuff.
Yeah. Well, so Mr. Crossman said to me today or yesterday, some weeks I remind myself I'm working 60 hours a week so I don't have to work 40 hours a week.
Right.
And, that not everyone understands that mentality, or frankly, has the opportunity to even give it a shot. But I do. I felt that so deeply. Like I'll happily work 60 hours often in a week, just so that I don't have to be exactly where someone tells me to be for 40 hours of the week.
I love the fact that I'm not looking forward to retirement.
Right.
Like retirement doesn't have much meaning to me. I'm not going to stop working at 55 or 60 or whatever the normal age is to retire. It's always changing, it seems. But like we're doing what we love, and it's never going to stop. There's not that countdown to only 5 more years of this, and then I finally get to have a break. Only 10 more years, then finally my life can begin.
Dear listener, take yourself to 50 years in the future and picture
A burning planet Earth.
No, a utopian solar punk society. And in that society, Justin says, exosuit, bring me to convention.
The rich people are on Mars.
No, I don't think that's how that's going to go. I know enough about real science to know that if the rich people all want to go to Mars, we should let them. Right?
Fair.
Yeah. It's totally fine.
Gregory,
Yes.
you mentioned to us this weekend that you convinced someone to read.
Oh my God. Well, by accident. Completely by accident. Yeah, one delightful moment of the convention was a fellow came up and he said, I got a book from you at PrairieCon, which is another event I go to in Brandon. He said, I picked up a copy of Red Earth at PrairieCon, and I want you to know I read it. And he said it with such pride that I was a little I had like a quirky smile, and I was like, oh, well, that's good to hear. And his wife came over and she says, I've never seen him read a book. And he bought this book, and I thought, why are you buying this book? And then he read it, and then he came back and he said, yeah, I read it. I really liked it. I'd been turned off reading at school because you're just getting told to read everything you have to read, and you're told you're not smart enough, you don't get it the way the teacher went. And I saw this Red Earth book, which seemed kind of like cool and interesting and a bit like a puzzle. And for the dear listener who doesn't know, Red Earth is an epistolary book. It's all the transmissions and private journals of a doomed mission to Mars. It's a bit of a murder mystery, and the reader sees what happens, though the characters don't know really the cause. And so he really liked that, and he burned through it. He spent all day, read the whole book, and came back to get more books.
Does this cost anything?
It's complimentary, sir.
And do you think like a chunk of that too is he got to meet the person who made it?
I think so.
It's getting to, and he probably, like you guys got along enough that, you made this. I kind of like the cut of your jib.
Yeah.
I'm more interested than if I would just pick this up cold at a bookstore.
Yeah, if I'm being honest, I have to imagine that we must have had a genuine interaction.
Mm-hmm.
And he bought the book out of a sense of obligation to like, well, I'll support this guy. That was a good conversation. Or like, again, like, because if you don't read, it is strange to put your hard-earned money down on a book. So he must have just picked the one that was least likely to offend him or whatever. And then, as a writer, that's the greatest feeling ever, is that your work made the idea of reading accessible to a person. The notion of, like, think of all the books there are that he can now go read simply because there aren't any rules. He had gotten, I think, broken by a system that tells you, like, if you don't see what I see in this book at this time on this worksheet, then you don't know how to read.
It's sometimes too, like I find if I'll go a little while without reading a book, cracking back into that first book, like, takes a second to kind of retrain your brain.
Yeah, absolutely.
Especially these days. I've been thinking about this like the last couple weeks. I have a newborn at home, and a lot of times you are sitting with said newborn in a chair, unable to move. And so picking up your phone is very tempting to just like sit there and scroll because like, it's even like, it's hard to read. It's hard to look at magazines. Like you're sitting with this like warm bundle of joy and you can't move for sometimes an hour or two at a time.
Or if you move, you ruin it.
Yes, you don't want to. And you can only stare at their cute, pudgy face for so long before, your brain wants to go somewhere else. And so I've been thinking about like how I don't like the power of boredom and how that's something that we need in our creative schedules and lives and how important it is. And I was thinking back to like when I was like 16, 17, I had a summer job of like power washing, like pressure washing, like livestock pens. And so for like 8 hours a day, you're pressure washing, like it's like mowing a lawn. Like it is just mindless. And I would borderline hallucinate with like story ideas because you're just escapism, right? I didn't have music. I had nothing exciting to look at. So you just imagine over and over again. And nowadays, it's, even when I walk the dog, I'm listening to a podcast. When I'm walking around the house, I'm listening to something. Like it's so easy to never be bored anymore. And I think that's something we need to be aware of and watch out for.
We haven't seen each other a lot since the new Joy arrived in yours, but we have definitely been on the same wavelength. On the way out to Brandon, I had a very busy, very stressful week getting Skydivel off to press and just like working around the clock, that's 60 hours so that you don't have to work 40. And I had an audiobook downloaded. I was ready to roll. I got into the car and I started driving and I didn't have anything plugged in. I didn't have anything on and I didn't do anything but drive and think for
I think
2.5
that's
hours.
your brain has a goes into defensive mode of like, it's too much input.
Yeah.
And so some days I'll notice that too. I'll go for a walk and I'll be listening to a podcast. I'm just like, I don't want anything in my head right now.
Yeah.
Like turn it off and just silence for a while. And I think that's your brain reacting to this of like, we need some downtime just to like process without anything else.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I leave the house. I'll just escape that. I'll just, Tara knows this well about me. If I've got a lot on my plate, I'll just suddenly get up in the middle of it, put my shoes on, and then go for a walk for 20 minutes. Like I just have to not be doing anything for a minute. I just have to move my body instead of like be the gargoyle hunch over this keyboard. So I know that feeling.
There's something that there too, the change of environment, right? Like the second you leave that room, leave that house for a couple minutes, it's like a little bit of a mini reset in your brain. Once you come back, you're just a little fresher.
Yeah, absolutely true. I got into this horrible habit. And I mean this like really, like I think it is a bad habit that I wonder where it came from or how it started. But I now have certain places where I have the habit of, I can't write that story in this space. I only work on that story in that space, or like literally in that chair over
Yeah.
there. And it's like a little bit, lately it's felt like a little bit nuts. Like I'm like, oh, well, if I'm going to be, brainstorming that story, I have to go back to the chair where I had the idea. I have to sit there and look out that window.
That's where the energy is.
Yeah, well, I don't know. That's nuts, right? I mean, and I understand the notion of mood congruency and all that stuff, right? Not a psychologist, but I once played one at a high school. So I understand why.
But think about it. When you open a book that you've read before, you can picture where you read it the first time.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah.
It's the same idea.
Yeah.
Where-
Puts you in that space.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. But it's a crutch. I don't like crutches because one of the things I really have enjoyed about my life the last decade is that wherever I am, I can do the most important part of my job, which is the hard work of composition or story, and I don't have to stress if I'm stuck in the line at a grocery store, or if I'm stuck in an airport, or if I'm, traveling somewhere, or there's a major delay in my Adobe update. I don't have to say to myself, oh no, I can't do my job. I just need a pen and a scrap of paper and I can do my job. So the notion that I can't do it unless I'm in that chair that's what it to me feels.
Take the chair with you.
Don't
Load it in.
Don't tempt me, sir.
You have an SUV.
Don't tempt me. Don't tempt me. That's bad. That's bad. So
Maybe you should work on all of your projects in a folding chair that you can carry around with you. Oh no, gotta fold out the chair.
yeah, that's right. I do have a nice set of vintage, like 1981 lawn chairs, like those aluminum ones with the mesh, the crisscrossing mesh. Maybe I should carry those around.
There is something very satisfying. I did this just the other day. I had put in my dadding time. I talked to my significant other. I'm going to disappear into the basement for an hour or two. I need to do some writing. I'm going to do this, and this. I'm going to get my chores out of the way. I'm going to take the baby for a while, and then at this time, I'm going to disappear. And then so I earned it, right? I got all these chores done.
All your
dadded.
have-tos.
Yeah, I went to the basement. I started a fire. In a fireplace, ladies and gentlemen.
Anything to not work. That's what procrastination is.
We're gonna cut that part out.
I started a fire.
I put on noise canceling headphones and blared the Dune soundtrack and the Blade Runner soundtrack, same composer, but like just that booming, no vocals music, and just like disappeared into words for I think 45 minutes, and then I was like, I need to go see the family again. But
Yeah.
it's nice earning those every once in a while.
And so, as is inevitable, the conversation turns at every show. Are you worried about AI? Are you worried about like someone else? And obviously no, because like what you're describing,
It's a
that
process.
takes away all of it. Like it's the process of being alive that we're after, not the final result.
The enjoyment of my work is always in the middle of it. As soon as it's done and sent off to like print and post and all that, the hunger like starts to be like build again, right? Like
right.
I'm not content. It's done, and now I need something else to fill that void.
Like a vampire.
Yeah.
Your hunger grows.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So do you think people who use AI for art are just looking for fake internet points?
I think no. I mean, I don't want to. Some do that. Guaranteed.
Am I being inflammatory?
You're being inflammatory to like paint all people who want to use a tool in one brush. I'm old enough.
It is one brush. It's literally just code.
Well, I'm too young to have heard it happen, but I am old enough to know that it did happen. When Bob Dylan switched from being one kind of musician to how dare you pick up an electric guitar, this is the end of music if you do that idea. So I can't help but see parallels in that. And yeah, people are going to take shortcuts. There'll always be lazy assholes taking advantage of useful tools, but there'll also always be craftspeople who really want the joy of having made a thing. And they're not that interested in whether others want to commercialize it into a widget that can be scaled up. It's quite all right.
It's too bad AI wasn't around for the NFT boom.
Oh,
That
Can you imagine those two things combined?
That would have been big
Yeah.
for like 2 months.
Yeah. Or would it have caused it to crash even faster? I'm so glad that NFT thing is
Thank
over.
God. Yeah.
Look familiar?
Son of a bitch. He told me he had a sales meeting.
Oh, he does. Just doesn't know it yet.
There wasn't a peculiar event that happened at the show
Mhm.
that has not happened to me
Oh.
before.
Yeah. Okay. Tell this story, and then we have to do best part, worst part.
Best part, worst part. Okay. Well, maybe this is the worst part.
Okay. There we go. Best
Yeah,
part,
this
worst
is
part
the
of the
worst part.
Brandon show. Go.
So I don't know the name of the company, and because I'm not going to be particularly what's the word? Positive about this next story. Maybe I'll leave it out anyway, so that's good. But there was at 3 different occasions, people with clipboards showed up at my table. Clipboards and
Never a good sign.
No.
business casual attire,
Oh, worst sign.
a certain kind of body language,
Mm.
where they are clearly trying hard to square up with you. Like every time I move, and I saw it coming. And so the first one, I was like, oh, well, here's a person that's clearly on a mission. I'll just let this
And there's a
unfold.
team of them.
That's right. But by the third one, later on the second day, I played a little bit. I'll tell you about that in a second. So this was a person that came and they were very complimentary. Oh, this booth is so nice. Is this your business? Oh, well, it's not just my business. This is all my work you're seeing. Oh, you wrote all these books. And it's like, they kept asking. And I immediately, as I answered yes twice,
Your hackles are going up.
yeah, I knew. I was like, oh, I'm climbing the yes ladder. You've been trained in this procedure, right?
Yeah.
And so for those of you who don't know, dear listener, the yes ladder is a marketing strategy where you ask questions where you can guess that the person you're speaking to will say yes. Yes, that's true. They're going to agree to it.
Yeah.
So that as you are building up to yeses, the momentum of that positivity, that yes, makes you more likely to say yes to something that if they had opened with it, you would have said no and declined. And I could feel it. I was like, oh, we're climbing the yes ladder. And I was just on the rise. And they were asking
To see what
them-
gets to what's at the top.
yeah, what's at the top of this ladder? And the top of this ladder was, where do you put your excess income? Are you planning for the future in that way? Do you have any financial plans for making sure that you're investing properly in future you?
These people are at the wrong convention. Like they're at the wrong event.
Right? And they're doing their best. But
What company was it?
let's just, I have some.
Are they like they're well known? Or?
No,
No?
I don't think
Okay.
so. No, it had all the, and I will say this for the purposes of Leo, these are alleged.
Yeah.
This is my alleged perception of the company and its real motives. I don't know this for a fact, but by the third one, I realized that they were a network marketing pyramid scheme.
I was gonna say, is part of getting your finances in order and being part of this team is then going and recruiting more people to be
That's
under
right.
you?
Where are you from? So after the first one, I watched them go to the second and third booth and all went. And so then because what scared them off is they asked me some questions and then suddenly realized, I asked them, oh, if that's what you're doing, if that's how you want to arrange it, what is the percentage return? Do you pay quarterly? Are you sending a shareholders report? As soon as I showed any kind of financial literacy, poof, they were out of there.
Yeah.
Right? They do not want to talk to someone who has relevant questions about what their real.
You're not cool enough to be part of their club anyways.
right.
We don't need them.
So then
Kind of like how as a law student, I'm not allowed to participate in jury duty.
that's right.
Or as a lawyer, yeah.
Yeah, because you can put your finger on the scale in an undue way.
You understand the system too much to participate.
You
in
read
it.
the rule book.
Yeah.
You can't play.
That's right.
That's exactly it. So anyway, I went and asked a couple of people, what's that? They're like, oh, well, they asked us what towns we were from because there's a lot of people, right, coming in. And then they asked if I wanted to be the new branch head of this
Oh,
business
prestigious.
because they're opening up all over Canada, and what they need is
Sounds
to
fancy.
sign up, people to, and it's just a small investment, and then you're in, and you're part of this
Ooh.
big fund. And I was like, what kind of fund was it? Is it a mutual fund? They're like, they made no specifications as to what the fund was, and I was like, so it's just a pyramid
So it's
scheme?
just Jerry's bank account.
Yeah, and what was kind of neat about it was there wasn't a single person that I spoke to who also didn't see them coming a mile away, like saw the pyramid scheme vibes of their entire organization. And the third person finally came up. This was an older gentleman. It had all the feelings of like of how like door-to-door religious people, if you have a brief conversation with them, they'll send an elder to your house the next week
Oh.
to like follow up. It felt like that. Like I'd been marked like, oh, that guy knows some stuff, but I bet you can crack him, Jerry.
Okay.
Right. And so
They're sending the B squad
Yeah.
and then the A squad.
then an A squad. And so A squad came, and man, A squad actually brought up the idea that I felt like he was using NFTs. This is why it came to my mind, so we brought this up. He was using NFTs as a watershed question. If I was interested in NFTs, then I'm definitely dumb enough to fall for his scheme, right? And so he asked if I had if I had minted some of my stuff as NFTs, and had it been, had I been successful. And he knew some people who were really successful at it, and I was like, no, it's a scam. And he's like, oh, well, I've heard. I'm like, yeah, I'm sure you have.
Yeah.
And then I told him about the Bre-X scandal from back in the day, and he had heard all about it. And for those of you who don't know, dear listener, this is when a gold company took their core samples that had no gold, sprinkled real gold on them, and then sold. Yeah.
Yeah.
This was the original NFTs. So I described Bitcoin as the next Bre-X scandal. And he was old enough to have read all the books and know about the scandal. And as soon as I said that, though, he would just packed up shop and was out of there. It's like, I am aware that people will pump up a market value on hype, and that's evil. And he was like, oh, well, then you wouldn't be interested in this. And off he went. Right. So that was not a thing I had ever
Put his oils away, separately back in his briefcase.
Do you think they were able to recruit anybody at the show?
I hope not.
I hope not. Yeah.
I hope not. But I did mention it to the showrunners.
Right.
Yeah.
Now, did they say where they were from?
They did. Yeah. And they were all from small towns, rural towns, and they had all started up their branches. They were all under someone.
Yeah. Head branches.
Yeah. So, and how I brought it up to the showrunner was simply to say, like, are you aware these guys were here? Like, and they said, yes, they actually had a booth here.
Oh,
they paid for a booth. And then, and I said, but are you aware that they went
From
booth to booth here? And he said, oh, no, I didn't know that. Right. And so that told me a little about whether or not.
How do you feel, switching slightly off topic, but on topic, when conventions have, like, Royal Bank has a booth, when TELUS has a booth, when Uber has a booth at a Comic-Con? Not a fan?
Tells me that the convention couldn't or chose not to fill their tables with artists and art-related.
Or is it just those companies recognizing, like, 40,000 people are going to be through here in a weekend, and...
That is what is being sold to them by the showrunners, and that is definitely what they are paying for, and they're definitely paying a lot for those booths, and a bank is definitely getting a different rate than you are, Justin, for that same space, and they're paying a lot, I'm certain.
So should they not be allowed, or should they be put in a different section?
What are they offering?
Usually it's just advertising, from what I've seen.
Yeah, they want to sign you up for some, usually credit cards.
It's just a big ad to them. They're not, they don't have product.
Right. So if we're in a marketplace, what are they selling? Sounds like nothing.
No.
Opportunity.
Yeah.
Financial freedom.
I love opportunity.
But, I mean, all advertisers, what they're trying to do is find their demographic. And I agree with you. There was this surge.
So take out ad space.
Yeah, but there was a surge of every bank was at shows for a while, and now they aren't. So
it still happens, but not. Yeah, you're right. Not as bad as it was before.
Yeah. So I think the market responded with no follow up that was positive, or they would have been there again.
There's fewer chiropractors now too. Supplement places. Every once in a while, there's an army recruitment booth that pops up.
I still see those
Yeah.
fairly often. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm withholding
They
my.
they should set those up at the anime shows. That's where you're gonna find your guys.
You
Yeah.
think so? You think so? Well,
They can-
because
they-
anime primes you to fight against fascism.
They can replace the body pillow booths with the army recruitment booths.
No,
You
side
can't-
by side.
yeah.
Side by
Side
side.
by side.
side.
So
In fact,
they can mark people.
if the army recruitment booths had body pillows, right?
Oh.
Yeah. Now you're talking. A famous Canadian prime ministers.
There are some well-regarded, now former prime ministers.
That could make a good body pillow? Is that what you're saying?
Gentlemen, your attention. Nobody move, please. Secret Service. I'm going to ask for your cooperation in remaining exactly where you are. All right, Mr. President, we're all clear.
You applied as an artist to a recent anime show.
No, we're not going to trash the anime show because I want to go there still.
No, and I think this is important because this is
Okay.
completely within what we're talking about.
Yeah.
The demographic data of the show, the people who come to the show,
Yeah.
right? The booths that's set up there should be a good fit.
Right.
And if a show is curating, then maybe if you're running an anime show, you and I aren't the best fit. I applied to anime shows only as an exhibitor because I would never get in as an artist. I'm not
Yeah.
a manga artist, and I could never claim to be.
But the big difference there too is, unlike other convention applications, they make you justify your reason for being there.
Right.
You want to vend at this anime booth? Explain to us
Yeah.
why, like what you add to this
Right.
anime convention.
And what's kind of nice about those, the punk rock flea market does the same kind of thing.
But at the same time, I also applied for an indie comics festival that's curated and also got rejected.
So, dear listener, you heard it here first.
You're not using the right buzzwords.
Lyndon is just no good.
I'm a complete fake to all of these conventions.
But like any submission process,
Yeah.
there's only so many spots.
I've heard like behind the curtain. I can't I probably shouldn't say anyways, but I can't remember which convention this was for. But it
So
was
you're
very-
safe.
Yeah.
Yeah. But it's a night they all look forward to, where like the entire staff gets together. They order pizza.
Oh my God.
They have like
party.
a big party, and they have like put a big screen up, and they go through the applications one by one
Thumbs up or
and
thumbs
like discuss it as a group, as to like, oh, this booth was here last year, they were great. This booth was here the other year, and they were terrible to their neighbors,
Yeah.
and we don't like them, and they didn't like so.
Sure.
worse.
It's they go through as a committee and decide, and yay or nay, and thumbs up, thumbs down.
Wow. I kind of love it, and I'm actually terrified knowing that now. Dear listener, if you're feeling a
It's
growing
nice to know
sense
that
of
it's not just
anxiety,
one
it's Justin's
person.
fault. Yeah.
There's not just the one guy or one girl at like getting all those Artist Alley applications and them deciding themselves yes or no, because some shows are like that as well.
Some shows do.
Where it's just one person, and if you're not on their radar of likes and dislikes, like
Yeah, a show that shall not be named. There was definitely a dictator who
Yes.
decided who paid what and when and how and if you got back. And sometimes that person would say, you know what? You can come to the show and you don't have to pay because we want you there. But you three booth mates beside you definitely have to pay double. And people would find out when they said, when the person from away would say, yeah, man, I got invited and they gave me this space. And the person there from our city would
Yeah.
be like, wait, I had to pay a lot.
Yeah, so I think I'm of two minds to this because, like you say, personal feelings can get in the way of who is exhibiting, but on the other hand, we also table at the faceless conventions where no one cares what booths are on the floor.
as long as you give us money.
Yeah, and like that also has its problems. Like if
Mhm.
you want a curated show, I don't know. I guess I would hope that in the case of the curated shows where there's a committee of people, there's some element of, I don't know, forgiveness or second chances or
It's not feasible, but it would be lovely if, for example, this anime show, you got rejected and you got a little
an
like write-up.
explanation why.
The reason you got rejected is this year
Right.
we're going in this direction and you blah, blah, blah. Or we have somebody like you already that's been trying to get in the show, you know, like some kind of.
Or even something as simple as we got 1,500 applicants and
Yes.
there's only 80 spaces.
Which is usually the case with.
What if there was a scorecard?
Mm.
Like they
Think of the paperwork, man.
Yeah.
Don't do that to these people.
you
They're
say that as
putting
a
on
teacher. You say that as a teacher. We're just talking X's and O's. Like
Tic-tac-toe.
as they're sitting down for their committee meeting where they're making their thumbs up, thumbs down, there is some sort of scale on, is this original work? Is this commercial? Is this applicable to this show?
Listen,
you scored
tic-tac-tician,
15
there's
of
no way.
20.
Yeah.
You scored 8 of 20, but somehow you're still in.
Now, Lyndon, are you going to attend this show?
Which one are you talking about?
The
Yes,
the anime show?
probably.
Yeah.
If I'm around, I would like to. I did last year.
It's a super good time.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we don't know if we're in yet either.
We do not.
I
We-
also applied as a vendor as well as an artist.
see, and I wonder about that. Like, are they going to see that as, oh, you didn't make it here and now you're trying again?
Well,
like, is
I
it two
said,
chances?
so I applied as an artist, and in my artist application, I said I will also be applying as a vendor.
So maybe that could be it. They're like, you fit more in vendor, so we're just going to bump you out here.
Maybe.
And, yeah.
And when I applied then as a vendor, artist applications hadn't closed yet. I said I have also applied as an artist.
And an important distinction to make for the dear listener is the difference between vendor and artist tables is usually price. The vendor tables, the assumption at a vendor table is that you're going to be selling items that you have acquired at a low price somewhere else and you're going to sell them for a profit. So they charge those places, they charge more for the vendor.
It's also been described to me as just vendors are usually doing this full time.
Hmm.
So whether you be artists or a business or a store setting up, artists are usually people who are starting out. They're not quite professional. Some conventions have it divided into artist alley and pro alley. So
Yeah.
like, are you a professional? Do you make your living doing art versus,
Are you
do you
just
have a
doing it
full-time
for-
job and you're just trying this out kind of thing?
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I don't know how I would do it, but the truth is nobody arrives at an event. Like, if you are a person who is going to hold an event, you do not get to decide if it's successful. If it is successful, then you are moving and changing shape to try and meet the demands and the flows of the people who are coming. And so it's very easy to attend an event and say, oh, they should have done this, as if the event as is had always been the plan. But not unlike a wedding, right? Where the people who attend the wedding, they don't know what was planned, only what happened, right? That is what writing a show is like. Nobody knows how many different things were planned. They only know what happened. And, we know a lot of people who are running shows, they're doing their gosh darn best.
yes.
And even if it, for some reason, turns into not a great show, they're still doing their best to make it a good show. So just be gentle to your listeners, on your showrunners. They're trying. They're trying hard. One other thing that I found kind of surprising, I guess, at the expo was the number of people who had seen both our booths at the Winnipeg Comic Con,
Oh,
right? And so, oh, you're here. Is Chasing Artwork going to be here? And I was surprised at the numbers that were asking because Westman was just last year, and it didn't seem like the number of questions matched the number of attendees the previous year.
our impact was
Yeah, so I
bigger
started asking, and they said, yeah, we come into the Winnipeg Comic Con. We drive in from Brandon. It's the big show, and, we've seen you there, and it's so cool. And, if you're here, and they at least started keeping track. There was at least 5 people who had got Dire Beasts,
Hey.
right, from us at the show and commented on how much fun they had going on the sketch quest,
Yeah.
right? And so that's how they knew our
Gets
connection.
to come back at all the other shows now because that book has only been to Winnipeg.
Right. So it wasn't that they knew that we knew each other. It was that they had come all the way from Brandon to go to the Winnipeg show, got Dire Beasts from somebody, and one of us pointed out the other, and they thought that was hilarious. And a little bit of the banter where we were like, see if we can draw something good is what stood out to them. And so they asked, like, oh, is that guy here? Is there going to be more of that fun grudge match that we get to participate in. So that was an unexpected surprise too. So you never know how big your reach is, I think. And despite what you're attempting to do with a show, you don't know who's going to show up. And no matter what your network marketing strategy or yes ladder is, everyone is just trying their best to make it in a pretty tricky world right now. So
what were the clipboards for?
they had a very clever way to gather people's emails and phone numbers. They had
Could you win something?
a chance to win
There you
a
go.
bunch of gift cards.
Yes.
There it is.
Yeah. So I said I would take my chances with the roll up to rim instead of their clipboard.
So that was worst part. Did we do best part? Was that you made somebody read?
I think best part is definitely somebody read. And it's like, I didn't make them read. I was just so delighted that I had been a part of them.
Clockwork orange them and
That's
sat
right.
them down and pried their eyes open and put your book in front of them.
Well, suffer with me. No, so that's for sure best part is that reading is fun, and a slow world is full of great joys. You can turn your podcast off and just go for a walk or a drive. You can read a book. You can draw a picture. You can shake a baby, whichever you prefer, right? I think our producer is signaling that we're coming up on final thoughts. Justin, Linden, what are your final thoughts? Do you feel some FOMO? I want to know is there any FOMO, or are you just glad you didn't have to go all the way to Brandon?
I didn't make any signal, but
No.
that's fine.
Well, what was it you just held up there?
That was like 3 minutes ago. No, I do not have FOMO about going to Brandon.
Okay.
I'm going on vacation next week, so all of my FOMO is reserved for that. But I look forward. I'm really excited to come back and do the Calgary show. I'm getting more and more excited for the big show.
I know I have
For
Calgary.
a month away, yeah.
I have Calgary list build up happening.
Yeah, I wanted to go to the reasons I wanted to go to Brandon was I have a bunch of family in Brandon. I wanted to go to the show. I had a great time there last year. It was great, great attendance and everything like that. But the way it would have worked this year with new baby is it would have been a very long drive with a brand new infant. And then the show has such long hours that I wouldn't have been able to hang out with Darcy and the baby. And then by the time the show is done, all my nieces and nephews that I'd be there to hang out with would be needing to go to bed or long in bed. So the family visit aspect that was kind of the driving force kind of just didn't make sense, and it wasn't going to work. And I hope next year I can make it work, but
I hope next
Not the
year you
case.
can both make it work. I think they have some bigger plans for next year, and they had a real great move. And I think this is a good note for any showrunners that are out there related to exhibition halls. They have their Warhammer tournament, which takes up a huge amount of space and needs a huge amount of space, but also has the largest number of attendees. So the foot traffic is really directed to that space. And so there was a discussion to have the exhibitor area simply ring that area rather than be its own separate section, so that the maximum amount of the crowd could choose for themselves what they went to see, but there would be no question of whether or not everyone got seen.
right.
And there would also then be no preferred aisle or no close area because everyone would have the same access to the
One
same
big party. Love
Yeah.
it. Yeah.
And I thought that was like a really great move for a showrunner to say, like, oh, we're seeing how the traffic works. What would be better for our exhibitors would to give them a higher % chance, right? And
Yeah.
so let's rearrange the floor. And they came around at the end to ask people what they thought about that.
Perfect. I love that because a lot of shows will send up that follow-up email like,
Yeah.
tell us your thoughts. And I don't think I've ever written back to one of those, but
Yeah,
when
'cause
they
you also received 80 other emails.
yeah, that's shows are like, when you do 20 to 30 shows a year and every show is sending out newsletters and then sending out a bunch of stuff beforehand and a bunch of stuff after the case, and like it starts to really build up and just become noise. But when the artist alley coordinator or the runner of the show actually comes around and has those conversations, that's when I think they get the best feedback and they get the real conversations and not a edited email.
Edited email.
Yeah.
my favorite.
Well, because like the tone is hard to convey too, and you don't want to say anything critical about a convention because, like Lyndon pointed out early in the podcast, you want to do everything you can to get into that convention for next year. So if you send an email saying like, "Hey, change this and do this better,"
Yeah, you bunch of losers.
Yeah.
Why don't you fix it?
they might remember that when they're saying yes or no to your application next year.
In fact, we've seen that happen.
Ooh.
Whoa.
We know people who have sent angry emails to conventions.
Yeah, it doesn't.
Oh,
that's-
yes.
we have.
Yes, you have reminded me. Yeah, don't do that, dear listener. Don't send a super irate, insulting, character assassinating email to a showrunner if you're hoping to receive a table
Yeah.
in the future. Just putting that out there. I think that this has been Super Pulp Science. That's enough forewarning for you for one day. I am GMB Kamichek. Don't let the fancy initials fool you. The G stands for Gregory. I'm encouraging you to join the fight and make comics.